It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Great to have you all with us on this Monday edition of the show. A lot to do over the next 60 minutes. We will be joined by Al Bernstein coming up in about 20. Hall of Fame boxing announcer on the passing of George Foreman over the weekend. Talk to him about the life of George Foreman, which is a lot more complicated than I think a lot of people realize as well. When you look back at his life and career, everybody just thinks about him beating Michael Moore and then the George Foreman grill. There was a lot before that a lot of people seem to forget about or disregard. So we'll talk about that with the great Al Bernstein coming up. Tino Pattigno later in the show. Yes, I have a show with Al Bernstein and Tino Pattigno. You can't make this stuff up. Tino Pattigno will stop by the show. We'll talk some NASCAR with him. Kyle Larson, a winner, guest on this show a couple of weeks ago. He wins at Homestead, a big weekend for Kyle Larson. We'll get to that coming up as well. NFL news, golf, you name it. But we start things out in basketball, and there he is. The one and only Sam Yarnell is here. By the way, my significant other was damning you up and down for your High Point pick because we went with High Point in the bracket and that didn't work out too well. So I'm just letting you know, the next time, well, the first time you ever meet him, he's probably not going to be so nice. He will remind you of High Point. Let's talk about the weekend though, and what we witnessed. And we'll get into the ramifications of it all, but just a couple of the big storylines. Obviously, you've got only 4 conferences remaining. 7 teams out of the Sweet 16 are going to be emanating from the SEC, confirming what all of us knew, how great the SEC is, and something you had talked about on the show. Derik Queen's game winner notwithstanding the big storyline from the weekend, breaking the hearts of Colorado State fans. And look, 2 things can be true, by the way, when it comes to the Derik Queen shot. It's a great shot, and he traveled. I mean, let's just be honest about it. He hit a great shot, great game winner. It's fantastic, but let's not lie. He walked. I mean, he took 3 big old steps. It's a travel, and there's nothing wrong with calling that out, John Fanta. If you call out the fact that it was a travel, great shot, but he traveled. But Maryland is through to the Sweet 16, Sam.
They are, and it was truly a magnificent shot for Derik Queen. I think the best story that I saw that came out of this all yesterday was a member of the DMV, I guess we'll call it media, yesterday walked into a thrift store in Baltimore and bought a Terps t-shirt or polo, something or other. Goes to check out at the thrift store, and the woman checking him out says, my grandson Derik is on the basketball team there. I'm so proud of him. She went on to tell the guy that she got off of work at 7 that night, would probably miss tip-off. Hopefully she got home to see him become one of the legends of the area, because it really was spectacular. And, you got chills watching it. Obviously, a great Colorado State story. Comes to an end just a little bit too early. They were a spicy team this year. At the end of the day, though, Jason, I think that the Demons exercise for Maryland basketball and Maryland athletics with that lone shot could propel them decently far in this tournament. It's given that team and that school a lot of momentum.
I think the one thing you come away with, though, from this opening weekend of the tournament, and we'll get to UConn here in a second, is there are a couple of teams that are just hands down better than everybody else, and Duke is obviously amongst those teams. If Duke does not win this national championship, if John Shire can't get this one across the finish line, I would be thoroughly surprised, and it would be a disappointing season for that program if they come up with anything other than a national championship when you look at what's left in this field. Do I think some of these teams are good? Yes, but there's no more St. John's in the field. The team that won the last 2 national championships isn't in the field anymore. Yes, are there some good teams remaining, Sam? But you know, I think this thing is set up for Duke in a great way. And by the way, not intentionally so. Let me get to Edge Boost here for just a moment, and then we'll get some thoughts in. We're going to do a couple of segments on the college basketball, so we'll get to that coming up in just a moment after a word from our friends over at Edge Boost. All about telling you about the best ways to up your betting game, and that's what Edge Boost can help you do. The financial platform paying you cash back to wager. It's an online bank account that pays you for every deposit. And with the Edge Boost Visa debit card, you're getting up to 0.5% cash back on all your sportsbook, daily fantasy site, and casino transactions. Free money back in your pocket just for doing what you're doing already. It's a no-brainer. Plus, your Edge Boost debit card starts with a $250,000 daily limit, and it'll never be declined for gambling activity. They've got built-in tools to help you stay responsible, and there's absolutely no hidden fees or minimum required balances. Stop leaving money on the table. Visit edgeboost.bet to learn more. And sign up today with our friends from edgeboost.bet. And if you use my promo code WRAP, W-R-A-P, scan that QR code there, use my promo code WRAP, you'll get a free account upgrade as well. Sam, UConn falls to Florida in...
Hold on a second.
Okay,
hold on
go
a
ahead.
second. Because we got to get back to what we were just talking about with this Duke team. I think it's just a little bit of a stretch to say that they have to win the national championship or else the season is a letdown. There are, like you just said, at the top of this tournament, there are a few insane teams. Don't get me wrong, Duke is one of them, and I think that there could certainly be an argument made that they need to reach the Final Four in order for this season to be considered a success. But so many things have to go right to win a national championship. And just to get to a Final Four, you're going through an Alabama or even a BYU on the off chance that BYU wins that game. But Alabama, one of the formidable teams in the SEC, you're probably going through one of either Florida or Auburn en route to that national championship. Those are two incredible powerhouses, Jason Page. Florida may be the hottest team in the country right now with the way they're playing basketball. It would be a lot for Duke to win this national championship. They are a better team. They're more talented. I will give you that.
They're the most talented team in the tournament.
Things,
most talented team in the tournament, right? We'd agree on that.
All around, yeah, definitely. I don't think they have the most talented player. I do think that's Janai Broome. When he's healthy, there is nobody like Janai Broome. That said, all around Duke, definitely the most talented team. I think they've got to get to the Final Four. I don't know about win the whole darn thing.
Well, we short shrift UConn and Florida, so we'll get to that coming up in just a moment because there is some stuff to say about that game. Sam and I will say it coming up in just a couple of minutes. And has the tournament lost all its luster? No Cinderella stories, just a bunch of great teams that you already knew about. We'll get to it next. Welcome back to Sports Wrap. Still talking about the NCAA Tournament. Carrying over the conversation from segment one. UConn falls to Florida, Sam Yarnell, in a game they could have had. And I'll agree with Dan Hurley on this point. If they get through that game, the bracket opens up in a way that they would have had a puncher's chance of being a Final Four team. But the reality is this UConn team was not as good as their last two teams. And even with that being said, the fact that they were in this game down to the final seconds against Florida tells you all you need to know. As much as Dan Hurley and the antics and all that crap will drive you nuts, and we could sit here and talk about him, screaming in the tunnel about, I hope they don't screw over Baylor the same way they screwed us over. As much as we could talk about all that, he did a hell of a job with a team that was not as talented as his last two of putting this team in a position to potentially do something. Now, some people are going to say this was not his greatest coaching game when you look at the loss on Sunday. But all in all, it's still a successful season for UConn, even without the national championship.
Interesting.
Yes.
I looked at this differently. I looked at this as kind of the culmination of a year-long maybe not year long, but at least season long crash out for Dan Hurley. We all remember in Maui when he became the story of college basketball during invitational season, screaming his head off at every ref he could find, and all the way until their last game of the year. What could have been his fatal flaw was the amount he was chewing out the refs in this UConn Florida game and not worried about what his players were doing on the court. Listen, I feel like there was a lot of reminiscing that Dan Hurley did throughout the course of this season about what could have happened had he gone to the NBA. And I think a lot of that spoke out in his emotions, both on and I guess leaving, because there have been now multiple instances in a tunnel with Dan Hurley as he's walking away from someone and yelling at them this season. It really, to me, Jason, just felt like the end of a season-long crash out with a team, with a talented UConn team that could have beaten Florida had they put it all together.
There are plenty of things that are off-putting about Dan Hurley. And I think there is a conversation to be had about whether or not he regrets not taking that Lakers job right now. And it's easy in hindsight to say that, because he wanted to try and do something that was historic in winning a third straight national championship, something that hasn't been done, in generations. So I understand the idea of him wanting to come back and go after that. Do I think ultimately he will look back on this, though, and say it was a mistake not to take the Los Angeles Lakers job, especially knowing what we know now, that you've got LeBron and Luka probably together for another couple of years and a team that can certainly be a contender in the NBA? Yeah, I'm sure there is some regret. But I think there is a bigger question, Sam, that we need to ask when it comes to this tournament. It's a question a lot of people are asking, and we'll get to it in just a moment after a word from our friends over at Credit Associates. Are you $10,000 or more in credit card debt, in over your head trying to make monthly payments? Well, there's a powerful debt relief program the credit card companies don't want you to know about. Overcome the debt trap of multiple credit cards, high payments, and high interest rates that keep you in debt for decades, and you can do it with one affordable low monthly payment. Credit Associates Debt Relief Program can help you resolve your debt in as little as 24 to 36 months. And what'll that do? That'll save you thousands of dollars and decades in debt. So find out how much you could save right now by calling 1-800-747-5362, 1-800-747-5362, or just head over to creditassociates.com and go check out our friends there, or just scan the QR code below. Sam Yarnell, on a weekend where a lot of people are talking about the lack of Cinderella stories, how things like NIL and the transfer portal are ruining college basketball. Is this a one-year anomaly, or is this something far more problematic for college basketball? Are people just overreacting based on 1 year where it's like this, or is there something inherently wrong here? I think we know there's something wrong with the transfer portal and how it's set up. Maybe this provides the impetus for that to change.
Yeah, maybe it does. Jason, I think that this is like the second year in a row now, though, of us having an incredibly chalky tournament outside of an NC State run that, frankly, a lot of people saw coming because their analytics were really good and they had just won an ACC tournament. So this is now the second year of us having total chalk. And to your point, exactly what you're saying, right? 12 of the top 16 seeds in this tournament are still in this tournament. All 4 ones. 3 of the 2, shout out to St. John's, 2 of the 3s, and 3 of the 4s are all still in this tournament. The only double-digit seed remaining is freaking John Calipari's team. What are we doing here? College basketball is slipping in a way that the NBA is almost too far gone. College football able to handle it because for decades, if not a century at this point, they've been led by the same handful, maybe 10 dynasties. College basketball, not the same. Right? We're essentially in this new era eliminating exactly what Jay Wright and Villanova did less than a decade ago. This is troubling to me, the way that this tournament has played out. March Madness, college basketball, and the NCAA profit insanely, make their living, I could even argue, off of Cinderella stories. in the last two tournaments, bar again a conference champion, a Power Five conference champion, you've essentially eradicated Cinderella stories in college basketball. It's in a bad way, Jason, and they have to do something about it and do something soon if they want to save this sport.
Well, I'm sure they will. I'm sure that there will be the overreaction or maybe fairly a reaction to what we've seen here this year, and I think you fairly point out over the last couple of years. I think there will be a reaction. I think you'll see swift action from the NCAA, which is not usually their forte, but I think you will see swift action in this offseason. No, true, it really is. I'm just trying to see if I can find something to get excited about in these last 2 weeks, because I honestly have no desire to watch. Maybe Calipari at Arkansas, the story that you mentioned with him going to Arkansas, because, I mean, what would it mean for him? If he can go on a magical run with that Arkansas team after basically being, disposed of by Kentucky. Yeah, real quick. Go ahead.
2 years in a row, we've had one double-digit seed make the second weekend. NC State last year, Arkansas this year.
It's fair. I was rooting for McNeese State.
Me too.
I know. We're coming back with Al Bernstein. Talk about the life of George Foreman. It's next on Sports Wrap. Welcome back to Sports Wrap. Talked about the NCAA men's basketball tournament. One of the big stories over the weekend was the passing of George Foreman, which I learned about while I was in San Francisco over the weekend. And the first person I thought of that I wanted to talk to when I heard the news was a man who is a boxing historian, a Hall of Fame announcer, the great Al Bernstein. Is kind enough to give us some time on a busy Monday here with the passing of George Foreman. What was your initial reaction, Al, when you heard the news?
Well, I was really shocked because I talked to George about 5 months ago, and I was unaware, whether at that time there was anything that was an issue. He was fine. And I've known George for many, many years. A good friend. He wrote the foreword for my book, and we had a really nice relationship. So it was really shocking and very, very sad.
Yeah, it certainly is. And as I got to thinking, and we all think about the career of George Foreman, the Rumble in the Jungle, the win over Michael Moore, everything in between. And as much as he is celebrated for what he did after his career with the George Foreman Grill and his business endeavors and all of those things, his career in the ring, obviously. I don't mean to get all, kind of crazy in thinking about this stuff. People are complicated and lead complicated lives in many instances.
Sure.
And George Foreman was no different. As much as we think about him from Michael Moore on, there was a whole nother life of George Foreman that took place before that.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the George Foreman, here's the funny thing. The George Foreman, the younger man, look, he was a young man who struggled like some young men do, won the Olympic gold medal, was friends with Sonny Liston. We used to go spar and know him. And people got the wrong impression, though, that George Foreman was trying to be a thug at that point in life. He wasn't. I've talked to many people who knew him back then. I didn't. He had the same sense of humor. It's just that he thought he was supposed to be this guy that was kind of imposing him, which he was in the ring, especially. But it's kind of a misnomer to think that he was this monster and then became this lovable figure. It wasn't as stark a change as there was. However, you can look at it in the boxing ring, outside of the boxing ring. He did refine everything when he came back to boxing, or after the first run in boxing. He even refined his boxing style. If he had had the jab that he had later in life, when he was a young boxer, he would have never lost to Ali. He would have never lost to Jimmy Young. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it certainly is. What is his legacy ultimately? You know, we often try to answer these questions while athletes are still alive. Now we could actually ask it with his passing. But what is ultimately the legacy of George Foreman?
I think it's in two parts. As a boxer, he's certainly one of the top heavyweight champions of all time, somewhere in the top 12 or 10 or whatever, depending on how you want to do it. I'm not big on ranking people, but he's clearly one of the heavyweights that you look at and say, wow, tremendous. And for the sport, made a big impact because of his play in two acts that was separated by a long time period. So that's a pretty remarkable story. And then the second part of George Foreman that I think will be his legacy is George Foreman, the personality, the person who, had his own sitcom for a year, sold a grill, was a figure that people got a kick out of, and he was a genuinely funny man, genuinely funny. I mean, when you're around him, his ad libs and something would happen and he would hit you up with, people talk about Ali when he was younger having a quick wit. I assure you, George Foreman, funnier than Ali. Funny man.
I was thinking about the win over Michael Moore, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. It almost, in some regards, reminds me of when Tiger won the Masters after all the injuries and all the laugh. It's we think of Tiger post, pre and post certain points in his life, and I think there are some parallels between George Foreman and Tiger Woods.
That's a good analogy. That's a great analogy. I think that analogy really works. And the other funny thing is he was losing that fight to Michael Moore.
Yes, he was.
And then was able to figure out a way to kind of use his left hook to put Moore in position to land those big right hands, and got the win. And so it's like, I mean, he was last. And the other funny thing about his comeback, and I did announce a number of his fights in that comeback when he came back to the sport. The interesting thing is he had lost a shot at the heavyweight championship against Evander Holyfield, but in losing, it was such an exciting fight, and he did so well against a prime Holyfield that it told people, hey, this guy, he might have lost to Evander Holyfield, but he's not just a gimmick. At age 41 or 42, he still could fight. And then he proved it, against Michael Moore.
How will boxing as a whole, because we know how fractured sort of the sport is and there's all these different factions, how will boxing honor somebody like him, in the coming days and weeks? How does that all get put together?
Yeah, it'll do it the way it does everything, fractured, as you point out. It'll do it with a kind of with everybody doing it their own way. There will certainly be, for instance, Ring Magazine, which I write for, my next column for them will be about George Foreman. The Hall of Fame in June, there will certainly be something done there as part of the ceremonies to honor George. But it'll be, I think there'll be a lot of individual things done that hopefully collectively will add up to the proper tribute to him.
Yeah, it certainly will. Al Bernstein, I always appreciate you, my friend. I know you're busy today with this story and this news breaking over the weekend. I always appreciate you. Thanks for coming on and hanging out with me for a few minutes. We still have to get together for lunch. I know. I'm here.
Shameful that we have not.
I know. We will make this happen. I promise you.
You got it.
I always appreciate
talk to you.
Thank you. Al Bernstein hanging out with us on the show. All right, lots more to do as we continue on this edition of Sports Wrap. We will talk to Sam Yarnell about all the quarterback stuff going on. We still got Tino Pattigno to come. Thoughts with him as it relates to the NASCAR this weekend with Kyle Larson winning over at Homestead. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to do on this Monday edition of Sports Wrap. Good to have you with us. Sports Wrap continues. Segment number 4 on the show, dedicated to the NFL, because there was news over the weekend as it relates to the National Football League and the quarterback carousel that continues to turn round and round. By the way, Tino Pattigno in 10 minutes on NASCAR. The big weekend for Kyle Larson. So I was in San Francisco I got there on Saturday. We went and walked Pier 39, one of my favorite places. Go and take pictures of the sea lions over there. And while I was walking over to the pier, news came on my phone. Jameis Winston signing with the New York Giants. At least it's not Aaron Rodgers, as I said on the YouTube short and TikTok that I created when I saw the headline. At least it's not Aaron Rodgers. And you know what? Jameis Winston, if he is the starting quarterback for this team, which there is some question as to whether that may be the case, given how much they're paying him, he's kind of making backup money to be a starting quarterback. And there is still the possibility of the Giants drafting a quarterback, which I think is a high probability, even if it is Jackson Dart or any of these other guys. It could be Cam Ward. You never know where anybody's going to fall. Jameis Winston will be entertaining in New York for 17 games, Sam Yarnell, if he's the starting quarterback.
100%. Could not agree with you more, Jason. I especially feel like this Giants team, the way that they're constructed with Malik Neighbors, and that's really it on offense. Oh no, who's the running back? They've got a fun running back. Why can't I think of his name?
Yes. He had a nice season last year.
Tyrone Tracy.
Yes.
Yeah, so they've got like two good skill position players, right? And that's what Jameis Winston needs. He needs one guy to just close your eyes and say, bleep it. Malik down there somewhere and throw it 60 yards down the field. And who cares if you win 3 games doing that? Like the quarterback class next year is so good. Take another skill position player. I actually Joe Shane finally getting in his bag here, doing what he and Daboll do best. They'll bring in a project like they did with Josh Allen in Buffalo and build the offense around him. Daboll has the offensive mind to do it. We know he does. He had it in New England. He had it at Alabama. Brian Daboll, I don't know why people continue to doubt his offensive prowess. Head coach, different story. But as an offensive guy, he'll build that offense around Jameis. They'll be fun for a couple of games, and they'll have another good draft pick.
You're way more bearish on them than I am. I think this is the end of the Daboll Shane regime. Because if you're handing the keys to, because they can't, I can tell you right now, the Maras have made it clear. They're not going to accept another 5-win, 4-win season. They're not. They're not going to accept it. And if they made it clear after the season ended, when a lot of people wanted heads on the pike, they made it clear that they were not going to accept another losing season. If they won 7 or 8 games next year, maybe those guys keep their jobs. If this is another 4 or 5-win season with Jameis Winston, Sam, they're not coming back. They won't be the guys building this next era of Giants football. They just won't be. It's not gonna happen. I think they'll both be gone. I think it will be a thorough house cleaning if that happens. And who knows? Then at that point, depending on how Bill Belichick goes in year 1 in North Carolina, you could be talking about Bill Belichick as the head coach of the Giants.
You stop that right now. You stop that right now.
I'm just telling you.
That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
Is anything ridiculous these days? I mean, really?
Oh my gosh, that would be horrible. I could not imagine a worse scenario.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying. Well, so Jameis signs there, which leaves the Browns with an opening, the Steelers with an opening, and Aaron Rodgers is still floating around out there. And apparently Aaron figured out, oh, wait, you mean they're not going to come running for me if I say I'm waiting until after the draft? Pittsburgh, line 1, can we have a meeting with me? Can I meet with your coaches? I'll do anything. I just want to play in the NFL next year. There's really only 2 seats left to fill here. They're both AFC North teams. Good luck to Aaron Rodgers, man.
Listen. Wow, I don't know how many times I've said this in my life. He should have listened to Jason Page. I think Jason had the best idea. The guy needs to just mail it in, say, hey, I'm going to wait until the season starts and sign with someone then. I'll stay in shape. You guys do your little things. And then, when Kirk Cousins goes down week 5, there you go. There's Aaron Rodgers. When, Jameis Winston inevitably doesn't work out because he's thrown 6 picks in 2 weeks. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, what's going on, man?
2 of them returned for touchdowns, by the way.
But hey,
hold on,
five
wait.
touchdowns.
Hold on. Oh, Jameis Winston just threw another interception. Hold on. While we were doing this segment, it's amazing.
But I do think that we've gotten to the point where that feels like the best option for Aaron Rodgers is to do the Joe Flacco, sit back, wait for someone to go down or someone to start struggling, and then a franchise will sign you in season for a couple $1 million.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of what it feels like. And what are you doing if you're Cleveland? Like, who's your quarterback next year? Is it Dorian Thompson-Green? Like seriously, who is your starting quarterback if you were the Cleveland Browns? Talk about a franchise. Hope springs eternal in the offseason. We all like to think our teams have a shot at doing something, and everybody thinks they're going to be, hey, the Washington Commanders, and we're going to make a run. Man, if you are a Browns fan, do you have anything to look forward to right now? Anything.
Didn't they trade DTR?
I think
they traded DTR for Kenny Pickett.
Does it matter? Does it really matter?
Yeah, Kenny Pickett's their quarterback.
Okay. That doesn't really matter. Tino's next. This Monday edition of Sports Wrap continues, and we do it with NASCAR. Odds and ends in 10 minutes. But first, Tino Pattigno joining us, SiriusXM NASCAR Radio betting insider, our insider for NASCAR last season and this season. And get some thoughts with him on Kyle Larson's latest win, the 30th of his career. This one coming at Homestead in Miami on Sunday. And it caps off an amazing weekend. I mean, he won the Craftsman Truck race. He narrowly lost the Xfinity race on Saturday. Almost pulled off the triple, which I think somebody said Kyle Busch pulled off that triple. That's what he was trying to accomplish, if I'm not mistaken, Tino. Am I right about that?
You're right in terms of Kyle Busch completing a NASCAR weekend sweep in that sense. He's done it at Bristol twice.
That's what it was.
It's been a long time since we've seen something like that.
All right,
but yes.
So Kyle Larson wins, and it really wasn't even a week. Of all the races in the weekend, it may not even been his best performance, and he winds up winning 30th win of his career. What did you make of it?
I made out of it that Kyle Larson is still the man we think he is. He's still the greatest driver, I'll say, in the world, but especially in the NASCAR Cup Series. Christopher Bell goes on that 3-race winning streak. We're like, okay, he's here. He's that top dog. He can compete with Larson. And then you bring Kyle Larson back to Homestead-Miami, and he does what he does best in ripping the high line, getting the most speed from the fence there like we saw. And that's how he was able to pass Alex Bowman and Bubba Wallace for the victory there. 15 laps to go. Kyle Larson went into this race saying he wanted to dominate. Post-race, he's in his press conference, he's sitting there, he's like, I had to change my mentality over the course of the race because we were not the best car. Ryan Blaney seemed to be the best car all day, the strongest car at that. The 5 car wasn't. They had to make changes and get better throughout the day to be the best car at the end. He was not only the best car, but the best driver with 15 laps to go, and the fact that he was able to beat those drivers by chasing them down and passing them for the win shows to me that this is a statement and a great win he can put on his resume to showcase that he is the best driver when it comes down to it in crunch time.
And it's been a bit of a slow build from him. The slow start to the season. Then we saw the signs in Phoenix, and then the race in Vegas. It's been sort of a slow build for him to get to this point.
And that's why I think this win and how he was able to win was that much better, right? Going down and with 15 laps to go, I saw it. I'm watching the race live, 15 to go. I'm like, Kyle Larson's going to have to go now. And he did. He just went down and chased down the 23, went down and chased down the 48. Two great cars all throughout the afternoon. The fact that he won in that way, even more impressive. The 5 team now, I feel like, is getting back into the groove to dominate some races moving forward.
You mentioned Bubba Wallace. I mean, he led for over 50 laps of this race. Not the most, by the way, in the race. We'll get to that coming up in a moment. But Bubba Wallace had his opportunity to snap this losing streak, or this winless drought, if you want to call it that, and came up just a little bit short. But still, there have to be plenty of positives for him to take away.
100%. Great day for them, and especially because this is a track in Homestead-Miami where you always look at his teammate and Tyler Reddick just being the faster driver out of, that 2311 Racing shop, expecting him to contend for the win. He just didn't. The car wasn't really up to their standards that day. And how about the 23 car? Just because the 45 wasn't there, Bubba Wallace made the best of their day, running inside the top 10 all day, like you said, leading, over 50 laps, being in position at the end to have a shot to win. If we saw NASCAR overtime, he definitely could have gotten it done, a late race restart, something like that. So that's what he talked about when you talked to him earlier this season, right? He said he needed to be more in the mix to get things done, and he was right there on Sunday.
Talk about our friends over at Credit Associates for a moment. I got more to get to with Tino, but are you $10,000 or more in credit card debt right now, in over your head, trying to make monthly payments? Well, there's a powerful debt relief program the credit card companies don't want you to know about, and it's through our friends at Credit Associates. Overcome the debt trap of multiple credit cards, high payments, and high interest rates that keep you in debt for decades, and you can do it with one affordable low monthly payment from our friends at Credit Associates. And their debt relief program can help you resolve your debt in as little as 24 to 36 months. That'll save you thousands of dollars and decades in debt. Find out how much you could save right now by calling 1-800-747-5362 with our friends from Credit Associates, or just scan the QR code below. All right, so what happened here with Ryan Blaney? Led for like 120 laps in this race, and then late in the race, basically his engine blows up.
Well, that's what happened.
That's it? That's the whole story. Goodbye, everybody.
Well, we haven't seen that happening a lot in the next gen era. So there is something going wrong at the Penske shop, specifically with Ryan Blaney, because we've seen, and to me, okay.
Didn't he have the tire issue? Didn't he have the tire issue in Vegas as well?
Yep, tire issue in Vegas, engine blew up in Phoenix, and now once again, Homestead-Miami. You look at the 3 races before that, he could have won any of those. Coda, not his best track. So he's right there every week. You can look at this at one of two ways, and I'm going to break it down like this. This is a disastrous start to the season for that 12 team, the amount of times things have gone wrong, or, and this is the way I think they're going to be taking it heading into Martinsville, they've been in position to win so many races throughout this season. Leading, and one of the best cars at Homestead-Miami, led 124 laps, the most out of anyone, won stage 1, third in stage 2, and then his engine blows up. Okay, was the best car, engine blows up. As long as they can stop the engine from having, malfunctions or parts going wrong, things going wrong. But I think there's two sides. They're going to look at it as not a disaster, which it has been in terms of them not getting the results they deserve, but more so the fact that they're bringing winning cars to the racetrack each week, and they have a shot to win.
But Tino, and I only have a few seconds here. 3 of your first, 6 races this year, you've had major malfunctions of the automobile. And that's a big problem when that is your main mechanism to win a race.
Hey, I think once they figure it out.
Once they figure it out, it's been 6 races and 3 of them. All right, I gotta go. Tino, we'll talk to you on Friday.
I'll be there.
Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Monday. If you have not done so yet, make sure to check out the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, you name it. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can get this fine sports extravaganza. You can also watch us on Spotify and watch us on YouTube as well. All across the country, over 200 affiliates in Canada as well. So thrilled to have you as part of the Sports Wrap family. All right, without any further delay, time for some odds and ends presented by our friends at Edge Boost. Are you $10,000, or I should say, presented by our friends at Edge Boost. I am all about trying to find ways to up my game when it comes to sports betting. And that's why we love our friends over at Edge Boost. If you haven't checked it out yet, go and get the Edge Boost Visa debit card. You see it there on the screen. It is the way to gamble on sports. How about $250,000 as far as a limit? It'll never be declined in a casino. What's better than that? Never declined with your favorite sports book, your fantasy, anything you want that has to do with gambling, and is here in the United States. You could do it with our friends over at Edge Boost. And right now, if you go over to edgeboost.bet and use my promo code WRAP, you're getting a free account upgrade. All of that with our friends over at Edge Boost. All right, Sam Yar now. The weekend in golf was all about Viktor Hovland getting a win at the Valspar Championship. And kudos to him. First time I think he's won since 2023, something like that. It's been a couple of years. But the weekend will not be remembered for Viktor Hovland. No. The weekend will be remembered for this display by Billy Horschel. If you have not seen this, this is insane. We've seen guys like chip out from a rough spot where they can't get the club on the ball and go left-handed and they'll flip the club over. We've seen guys chip that way around the greens if they're in an awkward position or an awkward lie. Billy Horschel hit a shot from serious distance on a par 5, and he hit this shot left-handed. He turned the club into a left-handed club, spun it around and hit it pure and knocked it on the green. And not only did he knock it on the green, he made the putt after he knocked it on the green. That's the difference between pro golfers, the greatest in the world, and you who are a scratch golfer who go, I could play on the PGA Tour as you play your club championship at your local pitch and putt over there. That's the difference between you and these guys, Sam.
Yeah, it was impressive. I mean, it's the kind of thing everyone tries once in their life, but it never works out that well.
Nope.
Even when you'll see pros do it sometimes and it doesn't work out that well. So really impressive stuff from Billy. Maybe he's ambidextrous. That's your word of the day.
Thank you. It's very, very good. So Viktor Hovland is your winner, but Billy Horschel, the real winner in our minds for what he was able to do this weekend. Can I see that one more? There it is. Look at, that's insane. The hit and miss area when you flip a club over like that, mind-boggling good. Were you flipping a baseball, by the way? Did I see you flipping a baseball? Oh, look at that. He's ready. Can I just tell our wonderful audience, we will have tons of baseball over the next couple of days on the show. David Ardsma will be with us on Tuesday and Wednesday this week to talk about baseball and help us preview the American League, the National League, award winners, all of that good stuff, Tuesday and Wednesday on the show. Look at the smile on Sam's face. He can't wait.
No, I think that's really funny because I have to be totally frank with the audience at this point.
Please.
I can't lie.
Yeah.
During this segment that Jason and I are doing right now, during the time that we've been talking, while he was on again about some golf shot left-handed from a righty, I don't know, I didn't understand it all. I put in a couple baseball futures. That's how itching I am for this season to start, folks. I am putting bets in every single day for this baseball season. This is going to be a great one. I cannot wait to get after it this year.
All right. I love it. I was down at the Giants ballpark, Oracle Park, on Sunday. Saturday. I went over to Oracle Park. Went and got myself a cool sweatshirt, and we went to Baseballism and bought some stuff that I sent pictures of to our friend David Ardsma. He loved it. I can't wait. Let's just get baseball season started. Yankees and Brewers on Thursday, by the way.
And the thing is, all right, this is the craziest part about opening day. Our best pitching matchup might be in Pirates Marlins.
Alcantara and Skeens. There you go. Last but not least, a moment of personal privilege. East Haven High School, my alma mater, go Yellow Jackets, The East Haven High School hockey team, winners of the Division II state championship, played at Quinnipiac University, on Saturday or Sunday. The game was played. I think it was Sunday. Hats off to my alma mater, the place where I got my start in broadcasting as a senior in high school, play-by-play voice for East Haven High School. The East Haven co-op team, Lou Payne, the head coach, second state championship for East Haven High School, their first coming in 1998. Congratulations to my Yellow Jackets. All the best to them. That's going to do it for us. We're out of time. Thanks to Al Bernstein, Tino Pattigno, Sam Yarnell, you for watching. David Ardsma on the show tomorrow. Baseball preview. Don't miss it.